promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar. Good afternoon and many thanks for tuning into West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and all around the world on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top stories. ECOWAS Court of Justice begins dialogue on unconstitutional change of government in Banjul.
The mechanism for preventing unconstitutional changes is by attacking the root of the evil, which remains respect by leaders of limits of mandates and the rules of good political and economic governance.
Guinean media practitioners today suspend operations to denounce the military government's suppression of press freedom. Nigeria's Apex Bank partners with Google to transform its currency museum into a virtual reality. An expert meet in Accra to discuss the implementation of the travel document dubbed EcoVisa.
It will be very difficult to implement efficiently and effectively this EcoVisa within the current security framework of the Gulf of Guinea and Sahel countries.
Please stay with us for details of these stories and more.
Here is James Adjapong with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us. Let's begin in the Gambia, where an international conference devoted to unconstitutional changes of government in the West African sub-region began on Monday. An initiative of the ECOWAS Court of Justice, nearly 200 actors from the judiciary, academic and other sectors are taking part in this meeting. This four-day event, which ends on May 25th, aims to, in particular, reaffirms the regional body's stance of zero tolerance for a change of government by unconstitutional means. WADR's Banjul correspondent Sankule Janko has more.
The authorities of the community jurisdiction, lawyers and representatives of various entities of the economic community of West African states, ECOWAS, took part in the opening of the meeting chaired by Gambia's Vice President Mohamed Jallow. Following the official opening, participants discussed the causes and consequences of the reoccurrence of overthrows of democratically elected governments, notably in Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso. The president of the ECOWAS Court of Justice, Justice Edward Asante, explains.
The intention of the court in choosing this theme is to focus on the need for participatory democracy and constitutional order in all ECOWAS member states, and in particular on the ECOWAS policy of zero tolerance for unconstitutional change in government, and the duty of member states to respect, protect, and fulfill human rights in their territories, the underlying factors of political instability, terrorism, and insecurity in the sub-region.
Concerning the three coup states, namely Mali, Guinea, and Burkina Faso, the panelists mainly questioned the effectiveness of sanctions against the regimes. Speaker of ECOWAS Parliament, Honorable Sidi Mohamed Tunis, while speaking about the collaboration between the Parliament and the Court of Justice, calls for respect for presidential mandates and good governance.
The mechanism for preventing unconstitutional changes is by attacking the root of the evil, which remains respect by leaders of limits of mandates and the rules of good political and economic governance. Now is the time to put an end to the tampering with constitutions and to make accountability prevail.
For its organizers, the international conference offers the court the opportunity to examine, in collaboration with academics, lawyers, and stakeholders, important and topical thematic legal issues. For Senegal, West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sankule Janko reporting from Banjul.
Meanwhile, Gambian President Adama Barrow says African countries should emulate his country's democracy after conducting another peaceful election. This comes after the Gambia held the mayoral and chairmanship elections over the weekend, marking the third national election since December 2021. Despite losing heavily in the capital Banjul and its surroundings, Barrow described the elections as transparent while calling for unity.
I think the Gambian people have spoken loud and clear. As a country, we should all respect that. What one advice is, I think we should now come together, forget about differences, forget about party, come together and work for this country. As president and head of states, it is my responsibility to make sure that we maintain peace and stability. But I cannot do it alone, so I'm calling on all Gambians to come and join me so that we work together, develop this country, maintain peace and stability. is because all these elections were very peaceful. I think Africa can use Gambia as a sample that our democracy is maturing, but we still have a room to improve on our democracy. We all learn from our mistakes moving forward, but I think overall I am very happy with the entire process.
President Adama Barrow of the Gambia speaking there.
Fresh and breaking news all the time. Hear it first as the news breaks, only on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
If you are just tuning in, this is Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and all around on the web. We are streaming on WADR.org. Local sources in Burkina Faso Monday confirmed the terrorist attack in a border area that killed around 15 people. The attack, according to sources, occurred in the east of the country on a shared border with Togo and Benin. The two coastal states are currently experiencing violence attributed to jihadists operating in the Sahel. Tofik Abdul Nasir has more in this report.
Sources in Kompienga, the community where the attack occurred, said most of the people killed are nomads and had their cattle stolen by the insurgents. Sunday's casualty only adds to the several dozen others killed in the past week in different regions of the country amid a daring counter-terrorism operation. The recent attack has forced hundreds of residents to flee the locality. Violent attacks against civilians have multiplied in recent days in various parts of Burkina Faso. Recall last Friday, a dozen people were killed in an attack that targeted a locality in the western part of the country near Mali. In the same week, 20 people were killed in the attack on several villages in the northern region, and another 20 civilians were killed in two attacks by suspected jihadists in the center-east region bordering Togo and Ghana. Since 2015, the landlocked country has been caught in a web of jihadist violence that first began in Mali and later spread to Niger. According to NGOs, the nearly a decade violence has killed more than 10,000 civilians and soldiers and displaced over 2 million people, mostly women, children, and the elderly.
Tofik Abdul Nasir with that report. In Guinea, press associations and journalists' unions have declared today, Tuesday, May 23rd, a day without press, meaning a day without newspaper publication and zero radio broadcast. The media practitioners are protesting against the threat by the transitional authorities to shut down media outlets they accuse of disseminating insightful statements and political hatred. The Guinean press denounces an attack on its freedom. More details in this report by Conakry Cherno Afai, Ibrahim Abade, and voiced by Marty C.
This Tuesday, the Ghanaian press will remain silent. A day without press to protest against what they consider to be restrictions that have targeted the press for several days. Ibrahim Massohi Traoré, spokesman for the press professionals.
The professional organizations of the press have decided today the following actions to ensure from this Tuesday, 23 May 2023, Minister of Telecommunications Usman Kawal and spokesman for the government is an enemy of the Guinean press.
Professional press associations have announced a boycott of the activities of the transitional authorities to protest their decision to systematically close down media outlets that are allegedly spreading false news and political hate speech. The press has also denounced the slowness of the internet in the country for the past week, which it considers to be a restriction of freedoms. In addition to the national demonstration planned for June 1st, the press associations intend to go further to make the authorities reverse their decisions. Again, Ibrahim Massohi Traoré speaks.
There will be a boycott of the National Week of Information and Communication. The MIC, the professional organizations, reserve the right to take more vigorous action if the government does not immediately return the transmitters of Africa Vision, if they do not stop jamming the airwaves, and or if they don't develop and improve websites and social networks. These actions will include suspending the participation of the press, the administration of the Federal Fund to support the development of media.
The Secretary General of the Ghanaian Press Professionals, Sekou Jamal Pandesa, says he is more determined than ever to lead the fight, and there is no question of giving in.
That was a report by Conakry's Cheno Afa Ibrahim Abadi and voiced by Marty C. As the West celebrates International Museum Day, Nigeria's central bank declares a partnership with Google to make its currency museum a virtual reality. The Apex Bank disclosed this on the sidelines of an event to mark the day in Abuja, the nation's capital. WADR's Usman Umar reports.
Museums, sustainability and well-being is the theme of this year's International Museum Day, which helps create awareness on the importance of museums in the development of a society. Museums serve as heritage sites that preserve and promote religious as well as cultural and historical values of materials. The central bank is once again observing this year, saying museums are crucial in cultural enrichment and the development of communal understanding amongst the people. Folashodun Shonubi is CBN's Deputy Governor Operations.
Museums, sustainability and well-being is a theme designed to link museums in making sure that our environments are sustained globally and to make the world a much better place. And thus its choice by the International Council of Museums as the theme for 2023.
Museums have gone digital by way of virtual reality processes that allow people to sit back in the comfort of their homes and take a view of items on display. The Bank Currency Museum is now keen into this by collaborating with Google and its in-house Information Communication and Technology Department to establish a virtual reality museum. Again, Folashodun Shonubi shades more light.
The Central Bank of Nigeria's Currency Museum, working in collaboration with Google and our own in-house team from the Information Technology Department, are establishing a virtual reality museum. This is an approach to connect with the global world for the public and allow them to sit and relax within the confines of their zones, yet view the artifacts that are in display.
The Apex Bank believes that now is the time to rethink relationships with the communities it serves and experiment with new and hybrid models of cultural origins while strongly reaffirming essential values of museums towards a just and sustainable future. It feels this is critical if it must appeal to new and diverse audiences, as digital innovations can make museums more accessible and engaging. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
Meanwhile, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS Commission, is holding a two-day technical meeting in Accra, Ghana on ECOVISA, the Common Regional Visa. According to the Commission's Directorate of Free Movement of Persons and Migration, the meeting is a follow-up to the previous one held on March 22nd this year on the same agenda. Imwede tells us more.
Experts and stakeholders at this technical meeting are expected to present the report and recommendations of the previous conference held on March 22, 2023 for collective discussion and input, and then proceed to finalize the costs and procedures of EcoVisa. They will also discuss other technical issues related to the effective implementation of the regional travel document, which the regional bloc says will boost tourism, effectively manage migration and emerging trends associated with the movement of persons across borders. Recall the head of state and government of ECOWAS have mandated the ECOWAS Commission to develop the modalities for harmonious implementation of the ECO visa for migrants from third countries. At the top of the discussion during the gathering are the validation processes and procedures, cost and design. But Morgan Ashugbo, an international relations expert, sees more challenges for the bloc in the implementation of the ECO visa.
Among those hindrances comes in a strong way the security issue. It will be very difficult to implement efficiently and effectively this ECO visa within the current security framework of the Gulf of Guinea and Sahel countries.
The purpose of this meeting is therefore to finalize the technical discussions and to propose recommendations for validation by the heads of immigration and adoption by the sectoral ministers at the next meetings, with dates yet unannounced.
Imwede filed that report. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here's a reminder of our top stories. ECOWAS Court of Justice begins dialogue on unconstitutional change of government in Banjul. Guinean media practitioners today suspend operations to denounce the military government's suppression of press freedom. Nigeria's Apex Bank partners with Google to transform its currency museum into a virtual reality. An experts meet in Accra to discuss the implementation of the travel document dubbed Eco Visa. Still ahead, we have our newspaper review, guest interview, and some sports updates. Kindly stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio.
It's 15 minutes past 12 in our studios here in West Africa Democracy Radio, and we are broadcasting live on 94.9 FM and all around the world on the WADR.org. The Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, has retrieved some $830,000 from customers through the Revenue Protection Project launch in August last year. During this exercise, officials of the company inspected the homes of customers to determine the legality and propriety of their electrical connections. The power company uncovered over 1,000 illegalities in the first week of meter auditing in Accra, the Ghanaian capital alone. As WADR Satiawini Bella Lawson reports, ECG was recently in the news for deploying their staff to retrieve a debt of about $550 million owed the company.
The power company has, since the launch of the initiative in August 2022, identified 11,000 illegalities and anomalies perpetrated by over 50,000 customers in areas where the initiative was piloted. Dubik Mahama, the managing director of the outfit, when launching the program, explained that the action was to help the Electricity Company of Ghana to recover its funds for power supplied, adding that the company intended to use all legal means to get power consumers to pay for what they consumed. Edna Owusu Nyampong, the commercial investigations manager of the power company, touted the successes and outlined future plans for the initiative.
Over 50,000 customers, and we have identified over 11,000 illegalities and anomalies we are trying to resolve. And we have raked in over 9 million Ghana cedis currently.
On his part, the acting general manager of the customer care of the Electricity Company of Ghana, Maxwell Dapa, reinforced the objectives of the initiative.
The key objectives of this project are: one, to help in checking the integrity of the meters that we have installed in our system. And the second one is to confirm the accuracy of the data that we have in relation to the customers that we are serving.
The Electricity Company of Ghana was recently in the news for deploying their staff to retrieve a debt of about $550 million owed the company by state institutions, private companies, and individuals. Reporting for Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Atiewin Imbila Lawson in Accra.
This is the newspaper review. Stay on top of the news. Get the most important stories with added insight and concise review.
This is the newspaper review.
Up next, we have our press stories from Monrovia with WADR's Darlington Pogba.
For today's edition of Press Review, we have 3 newspapers from Liberia. They are the Front Page Africa newspaper, the New Liberia newspaper, and the New Dawn newspaper. So those are the 3 newspapers we will be looking through for today's edition. We will begin with the New Liberia newspaper, printed by the government of Liberia in red, white, and blue, the nation's colors. Coastal Highway project on course. Commissioner Nangbe despair while spread opposition propaganda. We see the photograph of Maritime Commissioner Eugene Nangbe on the front page of the New Liberia newspaper. Still on the front page of the New Liberia newspaper, W.H. O'Donnell's vehicles worth US $130K to MOH. That's the World Health Organization. On the back page of the New Liberia newspaper, quickly, Pro-Tem Chie hails NEC's MOJ MFDP for BVR successful end. United Nations in Liberia updates with NEC for signing MOU to govern Kennedy's nomination. Police arrest Turkish men for alleged illegal logging. That does it for the New Liberia newspaper. Our next stop is the New Dawn newspaper. Irresponsible face shading. Seymour Freeman descends on Justice Minister Dean. We see the photograph of Justice Minister Councillor Frank Musa Dean and businessman turned politician Seymour Freeman. Don't put Liberia in trouble, Coty warns VP Taylor. On the back page of the New Dawn newspaper. Stand-off at ArcelorMittal Liberia Buchanan as protesters demand steel giant live up to MDA. And we see these angry supporters here on the back page of the New Dawn newspaper. From the New Dawn newspaper, the front page Africa newspaper is now our final stop for today's edition of Press Review. Front page of the front page Africa newspaper is asking a question: why the drug dealers fled? The Minister of Justice, Attorney General Councillor Frank Musa Dean, has expressed his disappointment with the verdict issued last Thursday. He has raised concern about the sudden departure of the defendants from the country following their acquittal, questioning their claims of innocence in light of the action. And we leave it right there. On the back page of the front page Africa newspaper is all about sports. With that, we conclude today's edition of Press Review. Thank you so much for following, and bye-bye.
Thank you, Darlington, for that newspaper review.
Politics,
analysis on major news,
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Earlier in the first half of the news, we told you that the Gambia is hosting an international conference to address issues of unconstitutional changes of government in West Africa that began on Monday, May 22nd, 2023. Tagged Zero Tolerance for a Change of Government by Unconstitutional Means, the initiative by the ECOWAS Court of Justice has nearly 200 actors from the judiciary, academic, and other sectors taking part in this meeting. Our guest this afternoon, Saliu Tao, President of the Gambia Bar Association, remarks on how the regional bloc ECOWAS can tackle the root causes of unconstitutional change of power, including constitutional amendment. Tao believes these actions by politicians are partly responsible for political instability, terrorism, and general insecurity in the sub-region. Another issue of concern is that beyond the call for conferences and stakeholders meetings, is the regional body legally able to put in strategies and binding frameworks to prevent coup? Our guest tells us more.
I don't think a single meeting convened by ECOWAS and ECOWAS institution can bring about any fundamental change. I believe the meeting was informed by the reason to have a discussion on a topic, which is the fact that unconstitutional change of power is against the international law, it's against the ECOWAS values, principles, and treaties and protocols. To reiterate that, ECOWAS is based on democratic values and principles, democracy, good governance, and the only way to take power is through the Congress, through elections, and that there is zero tolerance to any attempt to take power after the democratic framework. But obviously, that is just one side of the story. The meeting also, the keynote speaker was also Chidi Blinkalu, and he made it very clear that in as much as there's no tolerance for unconstitutional change of power, we also have to look at some of the underlying reasons, that may be used as an excuse to take power. And also, how do we now suppose the current trend of leaders in West Africa, having constitutional coup d'etats, not just coup d'etats, and then the citizens perhaps feeling that the democratic process is not working rightly or wrong. So these are discussions that I think we should have, and then find a way of, ensuring that at the end of the day, the aspiration of the system of ECOWAS is met.
Okay, so of course, Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Sidi Mohammed, in his speech, called for collaboration between the ECOWAS Parliament and Court of Justice. How do we tackle the root cause of heads of state amending constitution to suit their parochial interest?
To be frank with you, I don't think the ECOWAS, the way it is currently configured, is able to resolve the problem when the big players are involved. For example, I mean, in ECOWAS, if Nigeria breaks the rules, or let's say Senegal, for example, or Ivory Coast, it's very difficult for the heads of state, or the heads of state, the highest authority, to sanction a Senegal or Nigeria, or even Ghana. It's easier to act against Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, or Liberia. So if you look at the track record of ECOWAS, they have been incredibly successful when we have disputes or problems in small countries like Gambia, Liberia, Sierra Leone, and the like. But when it comes to the big powers who basically run ECOWAS, the Nigerians, the Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, and Ghana, I mean, how do you now get ECOWAS to tell Macky Sall, for example, that what is happening in Senegal is not in line with the ECOWAS treaty and protocols? As an example, I mean, ECOWAS has been remarkably silent, at least publicly, about the issue in Senegal, and it's a big elephant in the room. So I think it's beyond the parliament and the court. The engine of ECOWAS is not the parliament and the court. It's going to be the commission and the heads of state. I mean, the authority. They're the ones who really they're the supreme authority of ECOWAS. I mean, for example, I haven't seen civil society in this meeting, in the agenda, or in any of the panels. So it's important that the voice of the citizens of ECOWAS is heard. I mean, if you look at the European Union model, I mean, citizens have a voice in Europe, but in ECOWAS, that's not the case. And we need to revisit that. Because the community exists primarily citizens. I mean, states are agents of the citizenry. They exist by the citizens. Without the citizens, there cannot be a state. Without the state, there cannot be ECOWAS. So we need to revisit this ECOWAS project and see how we can ensure that the citizens are at the center of ECOWAS. I think that's very important.
Salutao is the president of the Gambia Bar Association. And here's Sankule Janko with some sports updates.
Hello there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Gambia kick off their FIFA Under-20 World Cup campaign with a victory, courtesy of Adjapong in the brace. The forward sensation scored in either side of the match to give Gambia a perfect start to the tournament. Honduras leveled the scores 4 minutes later before Adjapong fondly called the Gambian Hurricane scored the winner in the 84th minute to earn Gambia the win. The results in the FIFA Under-20 World Cup matches played on Monday are as follows: England 1, Tunisia 0, France 1, South Korea 2, Uruguay 4, Iraq 0. And of course, as you are aware, already Gambia 2, Honduras 1. In basketball, Angolan side Petro de Luanda overcame Ivorian side Abidjan Basket Club to claim the last spot in the semi-finals of the 2023 Basketball Africa League Bowl. Petro reached the semi-final after winning the Abidjan side 88-84 at BK Arena. And the Pennsylvania State University have reportedly signed 19-year-old Nigerian 6'10" center forward Favor Ire for the upcoming season. The Abuja-born Ire joined Pennsylvania University from the University of Miami, where he played only for a year. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
Thank you, Zankole, for that sports update. We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening. And many thanks to our listeners in the Gambia via Hot 104.3 FM, and in Liberia via Alternative Youth Radio 98.9 FM Lofa County, and in Ghana on Royals FM 104.7 Wenchi. Christian Mukidi has been on the console. Many thanks to Mustafa Sek for our Facebook Live coverage. Do interact with us via social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook West Africa Democracy Radio English Service. I am James Adjapong. Good afternoon.
News, talk, music. Get it all 24 hours on West Africa Democracy Radio 94.9 FM Dakar.